Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So previously in the last couple classes we have been going through the Mutn Abu Shujaa, that is in Fiqh Shafi'i, and we went through and we talked about the different types of transactions that happen between people, such as like buying and selling and the things where revert comes in, and also taking it back, and these different types of things. And we came up to in the last class to the chapters about sharika, which is called partnership, or it's also like a company, and we talked about wakala, which is delegation, confession, and lending. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the chapter that has to do with the Gusb. And the Gusb is like usually it's translated as theft in English, but it's actually there's more meaning to it than just theft, because theft is like stealing an actual thing. But Gusb can also mean stealing something, or like taking something by force, or taking something away from someone else, either their property or their rights as well. So say if someone was sitting somewhere and they had the first rights to sit in that place, such as in the masjid, and someone makes them move and like pulls them from their place without like any reason, and they make the person move from their place, this would also be considered Gusb, as it's taking someone else's right, which is like his right to sit there. If he came there first, then he has the first right to sit there, and so like taking this without a due right. This is also a type of Gusb as well. And of course the Gusb is of the major sins, and this is one of the sins that is major because of the fact that the person who takes the rights of someone else, then this is not something that he can just go to Allah and ask Allah to forgive him and expect that he's done what needs to be done for Tawbah. No, he has to actually go back and make things right with this actual person that he took the person that he took their rights away from them. He needs to go back to them and make sure that he is free from anything, that he's paid it back for this person, because this is a serious matter. And all of the rights between the creation, this is something that we have to go back and make sure that the creation is happy with us. We can't just say, oh, I made Tawbah to Allah and this is enough. No, but we actually have to go back and make Tawbah, of course, between us and Allah, and also we have to make things right with that person if we did something against another person. And because of that, Allah will not forgive someone's sins that is between someone else. Like if someone oppresses someone else, Allah is not going to forgive that person for the other person that was oppressed. That other person is the one that either forgives or claims his right. And so this is the serious matter of making sure that people's rights are taken care of and whatnot. And so the author here, he starts off here in the chapter of Gusb. He says, Fasl, وَمَنْ غَصَبَ مَالًا لِأَحَدٍ لَازِمَهُ رَدُّهُ. So here the author is talking about Gusb, and he says whoever took someone else's possession wrongfully, then they must return it. And this is the basic principle. So if anyone ever stole anything from anyone, then this thing that they stole, it belongs to that person. Even if this person has it for a long time, even if they only have it for a little while, they need to give it back, and of course they need to give it back right away, as soon as they can. And this is very important. And so this person, as soon as they take something, they need to give it back. And he's also going to add a couple other things here. He says, "Wa arshu naqsihi," and this is the other thing that he also needs to give it back, is the arsh. And the arsh is the difference between something, between its worth at the beginning of when someone had something, and then if it was damaged or destroyed, this difference between its worth from the time before it was damaged and the time after it's damaged, this you would take into account, and you would see, okay, this say I stole someone's phone, or I stole his phone, and then when I took his phone, it was nice, it was in a good condition, but then I dropped it. So now this screen being dropped takes a certain part of the takes a certain part of the like the worth of that phone away. So I'd see how much does this screen being dropped, how much did this negate from its worth. Beforehand it was that, and now that it's dropped, now like the screen being replaced, maybe it's like $100, maybe it's $200, and you go to like a specialist to see how much is the difference between it before it was if the screen was good, and then now after I broke the screen, what's the difference between this? This is what's called the arsh. And so this person would also have to return the item as well as the difference of its worth if it was damaged. And so this is what's important here to note. And the next thing that he also says, and the rental price of something like it. So it's not just because we're trying to make sure that this person gets all of his rights here. And so also he would get وَأُجْرَةُ مِثْلِهِ. So the time, if someone say they were to rent the phone as well, and this person had it for 2 years, so then he would also need to give the amount of worth of someone renting that type of phone for that amount of time, as well as the phone, as well as making up for any damages in it. So this is of course to make sure that this person gets the whole right of it. And the same thing if someone stole someone's car or something, even if it was just for like a joyride or something, then they would need to give the rental price of that as well when they gave it back. And of course this doesn't make it right, but it's making sure that the person gets their rights, because of course it's not halal, but it's making sure that this person gets their rights. And the same thing with any other object that was stolen, the person would have to give them the rental price of someone who had rented that item that whole time. So it also have this to make sure that this person gets all of their rights. And he also says, فَإِن تَلِفَ ضَمِنَهُ. And so, بِمِثْلِهِ إِن كَانَ لَهُ مِثْلٌ أَوْ بِقِيمَتِهِ إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ مِثْلٌ أَكْثَرَ مَا كَانَتْ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْغَصْبِ إِلَى يَوْمِ التَّلِفِ. And so here he says, and if it was destroyed, then he needs to pay it back. And so he needs to pay it back with how much is the worth of this though. Saying a lot of times things, they have different worths from the beginning of the time someone buys it that's new, and then maybe it's in the middle of the time, and then from the time that it gets destroyed, maybe the price of this goes up and down. Sometimes like the worth of cars, sometimes it goes up and increases, and then it goes down as the market changes. So he says here that if it was destroyed, then he needs to pay it back with an equal replacement. So if there is something that's equal for this thing, then he would pay it back. Such as like if it's money, then money you would give it back just as it is. You would give back the money because there's something that's equal to this. Or if it's something that you can buy the replacement to this thing that's the same, then you could do this at the same as well. Or if you say you stole someone's rice, like this rice is something that you can replace. Like there's certain, what type of rice it is, you can just replace the rice, and then you did what you needed to do for that. But when it comes to if there's not a replacement, if there's no replacement for this, then you would pay the price at the highest price it was worth from the time he took it until the time it was destroyed. And this is to make, of course, if we look at someone, if they had a car and someone stole their car from them, and when they bought the car, maybe they got a deal on it, or maybe they got it at a good price and whatnot, but after maybe a year or like a year or two, the price of the car went up, and this person stole the car before that the time of the price went up, and this person stole the car, okay, and then the price of this car and the worth of it went up, and then it went down after a while, and then this person crashed it and totaled it, and the car is gone. So in this case, the person needs to pay for the car, but he doesn't pay for it at the last price of what it was, but rather he pays it at the most expensive that this car was worth the whole time that it was in his possession. This is what he would have to pay, because essentially if this was in the owner's possession, he could have sold it at this point. And so of course, since if he could have sold it, this was his right, he could have gotten this much money from it, this person can't stop him from getting his rights, his due rights when it comes to this matter. And so he would get it at the highest price it was worth from the time he took it until the time it was destroyed. And so this is the basic the way that the person would get back his rights from this thing, and make sure that he knows when he would get it and how much it would be. And so this is what the author here has to talk about when it comes to the ahkam in regards to Gusb. And of course there's in other books he'll go more in detail, but for now we'll move on to the next chapter, which is called Shuf'ah. And so the author here, he says Fasul, And in this chapter, it's called Shuf'ah, and I looked and I tried to go through and see what is the best translation for Shuf'ah with this type of, because it's a type of transaction. And the best thing that I could find in English was preemption right, which basically means that when somebody is a partner, they have a partnership in owning something. Say this person bought a piece of land that is mixed ownership. So they went out in this land, but it's not like they can say this land is a part and this is another partition. Like this land has a partition, I own this part and you own this part. And if it's like this, then this person only owns this part and it's separate. But if it was like a certain building, someone owns a gym, and so of course like the lockers are shared between them and everything is shared between them in a certain way. So in this case, they own this building together. So if they were to partition this building, there would be a loss in the value of this building. Such as like if you were to partition half of the gym for one thing, then who's going to get the lockers? And then you have to like redesign the whole gym if you were to share the lockers and everything. So of course. This is a way for someone, if he's going to sell his part of it, then his partner that is in this ownership with him, he has the first right to buy this before anyone else buys it as a foreign entity. So he has that first right in something that is mixed, a mixed ownership. And so say this person says, I'm going to sell this to someone, and he gives them the contract, and he says, okay, I'm going to sell this for, $500,000. And before this other person can finish the deal, his partner gets first dibs when it comes to him buying this. So he can buy it out forcefully from the other person he was trying to sell it to. He can buy it out from him forcefully at the same price that it was going to be sold. And this is what is called by Shuf'ah. This is what is meant by Shuf'ah, or that preemption right. So the partner has the right to buy this first before anyone else can buy it, and so he has to be consulted. And of course, this is looking at the benefit of a property, and if it was, as I mentioned here, if it was going to get like separated from something, then there would be a massive loss in the value, or there might be someone who's coming in that is a stranger that doesn't necessarily know how to the new partner would have to get to know him as a new partner, and this could be good and it could be bad. And also some of the other ways that someone would have like a mixed ownership would also be say like there was a family that had an inheritance. So like they inherited like a certain land with a house on it, and so of course like divvying up this is something that the worth of it is what we would have to look at. And so if one person wanted to sell it and the other people didn't want to, then or say like there's two people, like it's two brothers to make it easy. If one of the brothers wanted to sell his portion of it, and the other person didn't want to sell it, then this person that didn't want to sell it, he could buy it from that he could buy it at that price that the other person would sell it from. So, and he could have it forcefully because this is a mixed ownership. And so this is the chapter of Shuf'ah here. And so he says, وَالشُّفْعَةُ وَاجِبَةٌ بِالْخُلْطَةِ دُونَ الْجِوَارِ. And so this is the first thing he mentions. He says the Shuf'ah, which is this preemption right, is an obligatory right with mixed ownership. And this is what he mentions here. And this is the view of the Shafi'i madhab, that the Shuf'ah is for mixed ownership, not necessarily not neighboring with property that can be split. And so this is there's some differences in the ulama where they talk about, some of them thought that the Shuf'ah is for like neighbors. So people that are, and say if I have a plot of land, and then my neighbor is going to sell his plot of land, do I get the first right to this land even though like I already have the lines drawn? And the Shafi'i opinion is that no, this person does not have that he does not have that right to take this other person's sale out from under him, but rather this is only for mixed ownership. As I mentioned there, if someone inherited a land together, and so this is a mixed ownership, and there's other areas where maybe they bought it together in a certain thing, and this is mixed ownership where they don't have drawn lines and who owns what. And so he says here, not neighboring with property that can be split. And so he says, "Fima yanqasimu, fima yanqasimu duna ma la yanqasimu." And this is with not neighboring with property that can be split, but rather those things which cannot be separated. This is the meaning of that. So like with the things that cannot be separated, this is what is meant by here. But if there is something that is separated, then in this case, people would have the separation, and that would be what they sold. They would, if they knew what their separation was, then that's what they sold, and this wouldn't apply in that case. Because ultimately they already own that one thing, and no one else has any like ownership on that piece of land, as opposed to someone who owns something in a mixed way. Then in this case, they all own that type of land in some way or another. Even if it's just a portion of it, they have a right to it, as opposed to things that are split. And he says here, فيما وفي كل ما لا ينقل من الأرض كالعقار وغيره. And so he says, and also in anything that is not that cannot be relocated from the land, such as houses and structures. And then the price of it is بالمثل الذي وقع عليه البيع. So the price that this person can buy it out from under the other sale, like if this person wants to sell it and they try to sell it to someone else, the price would be the same price as that other person would buy it. So it can't be a different price, it's the same price, and they have the right to buy it at that price that it was going to be sold to someone else, and that the purchase would be made with. And so this is the basic concept of the Shuf'ah. And so this is of course this is a way to protect people and give everyone their right to make sure that no one else is coming into something as like a stranger, into a situation where you have someone strange coming into a mixed ownership with something. And so he also says here, the next thing, وَهِيَ عَلَى الْفَوْرِ. And so he says that it must be done, it must be made immediately. So this is not something someone can sit around and try to make up their mind or say, wait, I'll figure out something, This is a transaction. It has to be done right now. So if this person is going to do this transaction, he has to do it right away. And if he doesn't do it right away, then he loses his option to buy this land, and then it would have to be split up out from under him. And if he delayed it without if he delayed it without like a reasonable reason. And so here is and of course this you take into account, maybe someone's out of town, and you take into account that they need to be reached, like the message needs to reach them. And then once the message reaches them, if they get the message, and they after they've gotten the message they have time to reply, then in this case if they don't do it, then it would be sold out from under them, and they would not have that ability to choose it. And so it also says here, فَإِنْ أَخَّرَهَا مَعَ الْقُدْرَةِ عَلَيْهَا بَطَلَتْ. And so if he would delayed it while he was able to take it, then it becomes invalid. Like he no longer has this right if he delayed it. And this is what I just mentioned here. And he says, وَإِذَا تَزَوَّجَ امْرَأَةً عَلَى شِقْصٍ أَخَذَهُ الشَّفِيعُ بِمَهْرِ الْمِثْلِ. And so he says here, and if he married a woman, giving her a piece of shared land as mahr, then the shafi', or is just the co-owner, can take it for the price of an equal mahr. So as we mentioned here at the beginning, what is the price of someone when they take this land? The price of someone when they take this land is the price that the item was sold as. So like we're selling this for a certain price, so whatever that price is, this is what the co-owner, if he wants to buy it, he's gonna have to buy it at this price. But in this case, this person is giving his wife as her mahr. He's giving her his ownership of this land. So this portion of the land, he's giving it to her. And in this case, there's not necessarily a price tag alongside of this. He's giving this as like the gift for her for the mahr or dowry. And so then we would look at what is the price tag of someone like her. What is, like, if she were to get married, how much would she normally get as a mahr? like someone like her. And in this case, this would be the price tag that this co-owner, he would pay the price of someone that is like her in her dowry, how much that is, or the mahar. And that is the amount that he would have. And the issue that he brings up here is because we don't have a price tag on here, we would go to what is the price tag of what is being traded here, or like what is the mahar, what is the mahar usually equate to, and then he would pay this amount to this person, and of course then she would get the amount that he pays, other than the actual piece of land that is shared, like this shared land. She would get the money from him instead of that. And this is just an example of showing like what if there's another person, or the price tag is ambiguous, then it would take like the equal worth of that. And the last thing that he brings up here in this chapter is he says, وَإِنْ كَانَ الشُّفَعَاءُ جُمَاعَةً استحقوها على قدر الإملاك, or al-amlak, afwan. And so he says here, and if the co-owners are a group, then they deserve it according to the percentage owned by each. So each person, say if you have a bunch of co-owners, it's not just 2, but there's like 5, and their percentage, or like if you were to cut up, so say 1 or 2 people wants to sell their share, let's say 1 for instance, then you would cut up that 1 share, which is 1/5, you would cut it up into 5th for each person who wants to take it. And if anyone didn't want to necessarily buy that portion of it, then that's something else. But you would break it up into that 1/5 would be then split across them, and all of them can buy it out from under them. So just as if it was just one co-owner that could buy it out from under him, and also if they're a group, then they could all buy it out with their like the amount, with the percentage, according to what is owned by each. So they can all buy that out. And of course, if somebody owns a lot, then they would have a little bit more. It would be according to the percentage that they own, that they can have like rights to the next. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So like an example of that was if like one person owned 2/3, and then another person owned 1/6, and the other person owned 1/6, and then the person who sells his 1/6, or he wants to sell it, then the person who owns 2/3 would get, he would have more right to that last 1/6 than the other person. And if they did share it, it would be according to the percentage owned by them, how they broke that up. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And this is the chapter of Shuf'ah. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. And if anyone is listening to the recording as well, feel free to ask any questions in the comments. And so the next thing that the author talks about is the chapter on Qiraadh. And Qiraadh is a type of investment that is made. And this is a type of investment which the basic premise of this is that someone gives someone money to do work, because this person who has money, he wants to put his money to use. So he wants to invest his money in something, or like he knows someone else that is say he's a trader. This person's a good trader, and if he had the money, he would be able to make a lot of profit. But he doesn't have the money, but he has the skills to go flip. Maybe he's like getting a bunch of clothes and flipping clothes, or he knows how to trade, and he's got like that he's a merchant. So he can do, if someone gave him money, he could get a profit on it back. So if someone wants to, he's got the money, but he doesn't necessarily have the time, and this person has the time and the abilities, and this guy wants to put his money to work, then this is a type of investment that he can do, which is called Qiraadh. And the basic concept of it is that he gives him the money to work with it, and then all of the profit or the loss is split between them. So this person who does he gives the money, and he agrees, say I'm going to give my money to Brother Muhammad, and so I give it to Brother Muhammad, and he's going to go out there and make money. I tell him I want 50% of the profit that you make from this money, and say he's a tajir, like a merchant. He goes out and he makes a bunch of money. He takes this, he buys clothes and moves it from one place to another, and he flips it, and he makes a lot of money from this. And so all of the profit from this, I get 50%, he gets 50% of the profit as well. And say if we say 50-50, or I say I want 60% and you get 40, or whatever we agree upon. Maybe I say I want 20% and you get like 80%. Depending. This is all up to whatever they agree upon. And so in this case, say if he, we'll talk about some of the other conditions of this, or like some of the things that happened in this, but this is the basic concept. And this is different than like someone putting certain like investments into a bank, because a lot of times when we have like these CDs, the CD in and of itself, they're putting an investment into the bank, and the bank is supposed to be making money back for them, but the money that is made back is not according to the profit of this, but rather it's a set profit that this person is going to make on this thing. And this is a deen, like this is a type of riba, because this person has a set number of what they're going to get back at the end of this. And the same thing would be like the also like CDs are some of the other types of profit that someone would buy. Say they would buy bonds, and when they buy this bond, it's basically they're giving a loan to the government, and the government is taking their money and saying, I'm going to give you extra when you I'm going to give you extra when you or when we pay you back, I'm going to pay you back extra. And this is riba, and this is haram. It's haram, and this is of course riba, the worst types of riba. But the difference between this and that is this is based upon the amount of riba, or like whatever is the amount of increase that he gets. And then in this case, this is what he gets according to the amount of profit. I mean, and so this is different because it's set according to the profit. So yes, he gives him money, and yes, he's going to get it back with profit. But this is if he makes profit. If he doesn't make profit, then no. And the difference, like with a CD, say, if the actual bank said, give us your money, and we will give you back a certain percentage of the profit we make with this money. Like the profit that we actually make. In this case, this is something that you could think about. But the fact that it's a set percentage, this is riba, and this is impermissible. Of course, it's haram, and of the biggest of sins. So getting back a percentage is not like a percentage on the money that you gave them. This is different than getting back a percentage of the profit that was made by investing this money. This is different with this person. And I hope that's clear. So the first thing the author here he talks about, he's gonna give a couple of details to what I mentioned here. He says, "Faslun walil qiraadh arba'atu shura'it." And so he says, and there's 4 conditions for the qiraadh, which is this type of currency, or like this type of transaction here. And so he mentions here, and the first of these 4 is ayakuna ala nadin min ad-dirahim wa ad-dananir. And so the first thing is that it is in a solid currency from dirham or dinar. And this is of course like at their time, dirham is gold, like a gold coin, and dinar is or dirham is the silver coin, afwan, and dinar is the gold coin. So this would that it would need to be in a solid currency, of course, because this is like a certain type. We'd need to know exactly how much did he give this person when he was doing this. And in this day and age, it could be in any currency that we have, like a solid currency, and then the person would take note of that currency that he did it in. But it wouldn't be something that is necessarily in like something other than a currency. So someone couldn't just say, I have a bunch of clothes, go to work with it, and we split the profit. This is something that wouldn't necessarily work, and this is the view of the Shafi'i opinion. And so it wouldn't work with that. And so it has to be actual money that is put into it, because this is how you can look at the actual profit and see how much is the actual profit from the money that was put into it. And so the second thing that he mentions here is he says, وَأَيَّذَنَ رَبُّ الْمَالِ لِلْعَامِلِ فِي التَّصَرُّفِ مُطْلَقًا أو he says أو فيما لا ينقطع وجوده غالبا. And so here he says the second condition is that the owner of the money, like the person who is investing, he gives permission for the worker, who is the one who's being invested in, he's giving him permission to use the money without restrictions, or he can give him restrictions with something that does not become unavailable normally. So say this person, he wants to give him money, he says, I trust you, you're a businessman, I'm going to give you $5,000, and then we'll split the profit between us 50-50. But maybe he says he doesn't trust this person just to do anything with this money, but he wants him to do it in a certain area. And he says, I know you're good with clothes, so I'm going to invest this for you to do this, merchant work with clothes, or like he has a specific thing. But of course, it needs to be something that's not going to, it's not something that's going to be out of stock all the time. So say someone wants to invest in someone to get pearls from the bottom of the sea or something. So like pearls, you can't find pearls all the time. It's a kind of hit or miss thing. And so something that is hit or miss, or something that's rare and that oftentimes goes out of stock and whatnot, in this case they can't use this. And this is a type when we wouldn't be able to use this type of investment, because it's something that isn't available normally. But if you said just in general, you do your investment, and if he did something that is over there's no problem. But if he specifies it, it needs to be specified in something that is general, and that someone can generally get stuff from in like a normal day and age. And so the next thing that he mentions here, which is so we have the first condition, is that this is on an actual currency, that he makes this and with an actual currency, and that the owner of the money, he gives permission for the worker to use the money, whether it's without restrictions or with restrictions, in something that is general, that doesn't go away. And so then he says here for the third thing is he says, أو وأن يشترط له جزءا معلوما من الربح. And so here the next thing is that he makes a condition that he gets a specific known percentage of the profit. And this is the key point that needs to be mentioned, that it's a known percentage of the profit, but it's not an actual amount that is set. It's a percentage. I hope that makes sense. Because if someone says, I'm going to give you, they as I mentioned before, they said, I'm going to give you $5,000 for you to, and I'm going to invest $5,000 with you. And what you're going to do is you're going to give me back $5,000 and plus 20% of that $5,000. This is not okay. But if he said plus 20 plus, then you're gonna, or if he said I want the profit, 20% of the profit, he can do this. But he can't say 20% of the $5,000 that he gave him, because this is riba. Because this is him giving him a loan and getting back something extra in the loan, as opposed to him in this thing, he's investing and he's splitting the profit from the investment, which is the difference here. But it's of the known percentage of the profit, not of the actual amount that he's giving him. And so the next thing that he mentions here, وَأَلَّا يُقَدَّرَ بِمُدَّةٍ. And so he also says here, and that it's not, and there's no set time, and there's no time limit that's set on this. And so of course, this is another key point, that this person should be given he's given the time to do what he needs to do to make the business, like to make this work. As is known, of course, like someone who goes out and tries to start doing buying and selling and trading and whatnot, this is something that, of course, the profit doesn't come right away. If he goes and buys a bunch of items, then he's going to have to put up the items for sale, and whether or not he finds people to buy them right away, or he finds another buyer, and all of this is something that there can't be a time limit set for this. And of course, this is giving that person the chance to actually sell the items and get the profit that he's looking to get, as opposed to someone putting a time limit on it, and then this person, either he makes profit or he doesn't at that certain time limit. In this type of transaction, he can't do this. He can't have a time limit set for this person, but rather it's something that is open for whenever he makes the profit and he gets that back, then they would split it. And so then the next thing he's going to mention a couple other last couple points here, is he mentions وَلَا ضَمَانَ عَلَى الْعَامِلِ إِلَّا بِعُدْوَانٍ. And so there's no liability on the worker except with clear negligence on his part. So if this person, say I gave like $5,000 to someone who goes out and he does a bunch of work in the business and whatnot, and of course every business is always going to have some type of risk in it. Then this person, he bought a bunch of clothes and whatnot, and all of a sudden there was a fire in the building that had the clothes, and it was like just a fire that happened, maybe it was electrical fire or something, and so all of the clothes got destroyed. And so this is the money that I put into this like investment with him, and all of it has been destroyed. In this case, there's no liability on the worker for these clothes being destroyed. He doesn't have to pay back anything because this is not clear negligence on his part. As opposed to if he had left the clothes, say he left all of these brand new clothes sitting on top of his car, and then someone came by and picked them up and went with and just took them, and they weren't in a safe place. In this case, he would be held liable because this is clear negligence. But if there's no negligence and something happened to whether it's the stock or whether it's to the money, or he got robbed with the money and whatnot, this is something that is there's no liability on the worker. The worker is not held responsible, and he doesn't he's not going to be held accountable for paying back the money that was invested in him in this case. And so this is also a very important thing that someone knows if they ever do one of these types of transactions with someone, is that the worker is entrusted. He's entrusted with this money, so he is expected not to do something stupid with this money. And so if there is any issue where the money is lost, he was trusted from the get-go, and so this person will not be held liable unless there's that clear negligence. And someone needs to be mindful. If they do this, there's a lot of risk involved. There's risk involved in their investment. And with this last point too, which also comes along that same lines, he says, وَإِذَا حَصَلَ رِبْحٌ وَخُسْرَانٌ جُبِرَ الْخُسْرَانُ بِالرِّبْحِ. And so here he says, and if there was profit and loss, then the loss is compensated for with the profit. So say we have profit, say like the first half of the year, we have a profit in the business, and then the last year there's a bit of in this I won't say business per se, but in this investment, say there's a profit in the first investment, and like the first half of the year there's profit, and then the last half of the year there's some loss. In this case, we would even it out, so that the loss is compensated for with the profit. So if this person took his profit and then there was a loss at the end, then in this case he would make up for the loss with his profit that he took. So he'd have to pay this back to make up for the loss. And this goes, of course, with whatever the scenario is between them with the percentage and whatnot. But they would make up for any losses with the previous profit, and so that at the end of it would always be compensated. Any loss would always be compensated for with the previous profit. Of course, if there is this came in like waves or batches in this. And this is the basic concept of Qiraadh here. And just another note with this type of transaction, this is a transaction that is risky, and people, if they are going to do this, they should only do it with someone that they trust very, very well, because of the fact that this could be a loss for this person. And I've heard many of the shuyukh, they'll talk about like that if somebody wants to be wise, they will be very, very cautious and not do this type of transaction with people a lot, because this is it can be a form of throwing people in very upsetting situations. So if this person gives this person a bunch of money and he trusted him, and then this person didn't come through, the business didn't go through, which of course a lot of businesses don't. In this case, this person is going to lose his money, and then this could also create some type of it could create some type of anger between him and this other person and affect their relationship, So of course this is something just from a personal level, it's something someone should be very, very cautious about when going into this type of investment with anyone, just because of the fact that this is very risky, and as this person could lose all of his money, and this is very important. So the next part of the book that the author will go into, he's going to go into what is called Musaqaah, which is a type of transaction when it comes into farmers. And here I don't have it translated here, and so I'll get the translation out inSha'Allah with the video, but I'll translate it for you on the from the Arabic here. And so the author here says, Fasl, وَمُسَاقَاتُ جَائِزَةٌ عَلَى النَّخْلِ وَالْكَرْمِ. And so this, he says that musaqah, which is comes from saqi, which is watering. And this is a type of transaction when it comes to farmers, when they would water other people's plants and crops. And so he says this is permissible for someone to do in the and this type of transaction. It's permissible with dates and grapes. These are the two that he mentions here. And this to give it just kind of an idea of what this musaqah is in its essence, is you have someone which has land. And so say this person has acres of land, he has a hectare of land, and he wants to put this to use, but he's not necessarily a farmer, and he wants to get some use back from this land. So he gets someone to look over his crops or like say this is he mentions here for dates. So he has a bunch of date trees or like a date plantation and whatnot. So he has all these date trees, and he has someone look over the dates and take care of them, water them, and then at the end of this, he's going to split the profit between them. So he's going to say, I get half of the dates and you get the other half. And you can sell the other half, and that's what you're going to get. I'll get half. Or they can do it at, so maybe it's like 80-20. I get 80% of the dates, and you get 20% of the dates at the end. You can sell it, do whatever you want with it. And so this is the basic principle, is that you have the owner of the land, and you also have the worker of the land. And the worker of the land will get a percentage of the yield. Whatever this yield is, he'll get a percentage of the yield. And of course, this is an incentive for him to work hard. And when he's doing this, of course, if he wants to get the best yield, he'll get a better percentage, he'll get more out of his percentage than if he doesn't work hard. And so, of course, this is great for both sides. And it's incentive for the worker one to work well with the land, so he'll water the crops, he'll make sure that he does everything that the tree, like the palm trees, they need to be like pollinated, and they need to be taken care of and trimmed at certain times and whatnot. So he'll do all of these things to make sure that that he gets the most yield from these dates. And also the person who owns the land, he gets the benefit of someone using or utilizing his land, and that he gets his time, like he doesn't have to do all this work himself, but rather someone else is doing it. And it's better for him to do it this way than to actually hire someone out as workers, because if someone knows at the end of it that they're getting percentage, then this gives them greater incentive than for someone just getting just getting a paid price for all of his hours, because maybe he's just lazy with that. So this is a great thing for them. And so the author here, he says this is jaiza, like this is permissible for dates and grapes. And the reason for the dates and grapes that he says this is because this is the original of how this was done. This was originally done in Khaybar, and this is the Prophet ﷺ when he conquered Khaybar, which was a very profitable farmland. He had the people of Khaybar, he allowed them to stay there, for them to work the land and give him, and they could keep a portion of the profit, and he would take the other portion of the profit, and this is his land and whatnot, or when he got this land. So then he let them work the land, like the Jews at that time that were there. He let them work the land, and they would keep a part of it, and then they would give the other part of that to the Prophet ﷺ. But of course, the land was not their ownership, but rather these were just workers of the land that got the benefit of being on the land, of course, and getting the benefit from the return of the portion that was allowed for them. And so this was the basic premise of it, and this was with dates. And one of the things about dates that the Shafi'is will look at, they'll say that dates are something that can be they can be stored afterwards. So it's a fruit, yes, it's a fruit, but it also, when it's dried, it's stored, and it's also like because of this ability to be stored and then sold for a long time, this also has another meaning. And the same thing like that is grapes, because grapes can also be stored as raisins. And so because of these two, they basically allow these two. But when it comes to other than this, the opinion that the author here he goes off of, which is the opinion of the Shafi'i madhab in general. There's another opinion in the Shafi'i madhab as well, but they say that this can only be done with dates and grapes. You can't have this transaction with, say, someone wants to sell something else, such as like broccoli, or they have a cabbage farm, or they have any other type of farm, and they can't do this with anything other than grapes and dates. This is the view of the Shafi'i madhab. At least the majority view of the Shafi'i madhab is this. Then there are many scholars in the Shafi'i madhab that say no, you can do this with other than grapes and dates, and this is the fatwa that many people have used. And also, like my sheikh personally, he says that this is something that is in general for more than just grapes and dates. Like, this is in general for any farming that someone wants to do. They can have this transaction for that. But here he says it's for grapes and dates, and we'll go alongside of him for this. And he also says, and there's two conditions for this. And the first condition for this, he says, وَلَهَا شَرْطًا أَحَدُهُمَا أَن يُقَدِّرَ بِمُدَّةٍ مَعْلُومَةٍ. And that the first condition is that there is a set time for how long this person gets to do this transaction. So of course, normally someone would do the transaction, or like they would have this time for the time of the harvest. So they would have all the way from the beginning after the last harvest. Maybe they start after the last harvest, and they start from there to the end of the next harvest. So this person would take care of the earth, and he would grow as much as he can, and then at the end of the last harvest, he would give back that portion. And then the second condition, after having the set time period, the second condition is, he says, وَالثَّانِي أَن يُعَيِّنَ لِلْعَامِلِ جُزْءًا مَعْلُومًا مِنَ الثَّمَرَةِ. The second condition is that he gives, that the owner, he specifies for the worker a certain percentage of the yield. And so this is the important thing, that he gets a certain percentage of the yield. And it's not necessarily an actual amount. This is according to how much there is from the yield. So if there's a pestilence or something, and something happens and the yield gets completely destroyed, then the worker is out. Like, he doesn't get anything. He loses out. Or if there's a small yield, then he gets a small percentage. Or like his percentage is he's only going to get a small from his percentage. And so also the next thing that the author here brings up, he says, ثُمَّ الْعَمَلُ فِيهَا عَلَى ضَرْبَيْنِ عَفْوًا. And so he says, and then there's two types of work that happen in this transaction. So like one of the work that he mentions is talking about like breaking up between the worker and the owner of the land. He says, عَمَلٌ يَعُودُ نَفْعُهُ إِلَى الثَّمَرَةِ فَهُوَ عَلَى الْعَامِلِ. And so he says, and there's a work that its benefit is directed to the actual crops themselves, or like the fruit. And so this work is upon the worker to do this. So of course he's the one who's going to be doing the work, such as like watering. He's going to be doing like the weeding and all of this like tedious work that has to do with the actual plants themselves. And then he says the other type of work, he says here, وَعَمَلٌ يَعُودُ نَفْعُهُ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ فَهُوَ عَلَى رَبِّ الْمَالِ. And so he says, and then there's another type of work which its benefit is, it goes to the actual land itself. And so in this case, this is upon the owner for him to take care of these things. So such as if there is say he has like gates for his orchard. So he has an orchard and he has gates around that orchard, making sure that the gate is there and that it works fine. This is upon him. Also making sure that the well there works. This is also upon him. Making sure that he has the tools for the well, that the well is there and the tools are there. This also is upon him to do. Also making sure that like the trees are actually there, like such as planting the trees. If they're trees, this is something that is not just for fruit, but this is something that the trees having them planted and whatnot, this is upon him to do. And so this is the basic concept here. And so who's responsible for what? We would look at if this thing is connected to the actual land itself, then this is upon and it's not focused on the actual fruit, then in this case the work is upon the owner of the land to do. And if it's upon the fruit itself, the benefit comes to the fruit, then this work is upon the worker to do. And so this is what he mentions here. And this is, as I mentioned here, the Shafi'i madhab, they close this down to only dates and grapes. And this is not all of the Shafi'i madhab. There's definitely people that opened it up for that. And also Imam Nawawi, he also he talked about that this is something that is it's like the actions of what people have done for ages, is that they do it for more than just grapes and dates. And the stronger view when it comes to the madhab, sometimes when I say the stronger view according to the madhab, it means like that the madhab has certain principles in line, that according to these principles, this is the stronger view. But when we look at the evidences and whatnot, occasionally the stronger view is not the stronger view in light of the evidences. So in light of the madhab, the stronger view is that it's only for the grapes and dates. But in the light of the other evidences, then and it also is a view inside the madhab, is that this is something that's open for other than just grapes and dates. And I hope that is clear. And this is the fatwa that, like, my Shaykh Ahmed Rushdi, that he gives, is also that this is something it's open for other than just these two, that this is open for any types of crops that someone wishes to do this transaction with, that they can do this. And inshallah, this would be something that is a great it's a great way for someone to work the land and get back make a return back on having the land and working it, and also putting other people into and giving them jobs and whatnot. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير.